What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Sports Nerds podcast here on the 515 Podcast Network. I'm Brock Beirman, alongside, as always, with Dawson Livingston. It's NFL Draft Week. Also, the NBA playoffs are going on right now, and we were just talking before we hopped on that the NBA playoffs so far been kind of stinky. Hasn't been as competitive or as entertaining as we originally thought going into it.
I think from the people on the hardwood convos, though, I think me, you, and Hunter are okay with the outcomes of it being stinky as long as their teams win our first round series. Chase, not so much. His
Yeah.
his team's going to struggle a little bit, but I think us three are doing just fine right now.
I mean, credit to you. I'm not sure why, honestly, I ended up going with the Lakers to the finals. Maybe it's just me like hoping that like the Celtics could beat LeBron in the finals because like that'd be the ultimate Celtics thing, like for as a Celtics fan to do. But I think you're the only one that took the
I,
Nuggets to
I
actually
know.
win, which is kind of shocking. I knew Chase wasn't going to take the
Mhm.
Nuggets, but Hunter not taking the Nuggets and Hunter having the Lakers going to the conference finals as well was kind of shocking.
Yeah, I was like, when I sent you my graphic and then I saw the graphic on Instagram, I'm like, there's no way I was the only one to pick the defending champs to go back to the finals. And I have the Nuggets winning it. Not to poo-poo on your Celtics, but I don't know. We'll see. NBA playoffs so far haven't been too great, but I know it's going to turn around. We were only one game into each series.
Yeah, and honestly, out of all the things that I said last week, I've never felt more confident in my. I said if there's going to be a sweep on the East side, it was going to be the Bucks and Pacers, and so far, I feel very, very confident in that. Um, on the other side of that, on the East, real quick before we get into the NFL, I was the only one that took the 76ers to the conference finals. Felt really good about it, and you know what? They played really well until someone decided to dunk for the first time since coming back from injury. Not only dunking, but he threw it off the glass and then postered someone. And Joel Embiid obviously tweaked his knee. And I mean, we'll talk about that more in depth probably later this week when we do a podcast of the hardwood combos. But man, that sucked the air out of the 76ers.
Yeah, dude, I was so close before the playoffs started. I'm like, dude, I really like what Philly's doing. We had that one episode where it's like, if you can't pick the top two teams in the East, who's your second team? And man, Philly was right there. I could still see him beating the Knicks. I just really like what Jalen Brunson's doing for that team. Um, Game one was a pretty good game. Knicks were up, well, I want to say by like 10 until the end of the third, and then Sixers ended up tying it back up. Then the Knicks ended up pulling away with it. Um, it's we'll see how many games the series ends up going with a fully healthy Joel Embiid. But I don't know. That was one of the closer games on Saturday that we had. Other than yeah, that was the closest game on Saturday. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and I mean, it could have went any way, either way, and then like, I mean, the Sixers kept it close even after Embiid got hurt, but it just something was different when Embiid's not able to do Embiid things. I'm not sure why, and we can debate on this when we get to the hardwood combos later this week on why he decided to throw it off the glass to himself and dunk it. I feel like that was a really, really dumb move, but either way, all home teams won their first opening game one series, so home court advantage is proven to be a big thing this year in the NBA playoffs. But this is the Sports Nerd, so we're going to actually talk a little bit about the NFL as it is draft week, which I mean, draft week always creeps up on me when you're finishing up March Madness, NBA playoffs are just tipping off. I mean, even the NHL playoffs are going in full force right now, as well as MLB season's coming in, and I mean it's going to be an interesting week when it comes to sports in general, especially in the NFL draft, because I think we both know that there's going to be a lot of moves made. At least I think there's going to be a lot of moves that could drastically change certain teams and the trajectory of the NFL.
Yeah, I totally agree. This is one of my favorite weeks of the year that's non-football, like no games or anything, because this is where teams make Super Bowl runs and when they draft players, and this is how like the foundation of like really good Super Bowl teams are started is through the draft, whether it's the first round or all the way to the seventh round. I mean, this is where teams can really make an impact on their team.
Yeah, and What we're gonna do today is we're going to do our top 10 picks, assuming no trades happen. And then we'll look at Dawson's last, or I guess, are we gonna call this your last official mock draft, or are you gonna probably make one the day of?
I'll probably make one more. I'll make one Thursday morning.
And then we'll try to get that posted up on social media. But this will be the most updated, literally within the last 15 minutes, NFL mock draft that Dawson has put together. But we're going to give our little top 10 picks based off of the current situation of the draft order. Of course, starting with the Chicago Bears. I think we both have Caleb Williams, assuming the Bears keep the pick. I don't know why they would get rid of it. They're going to go Caleb Williams. They've made the move, moved on from Justin Fields. And so point blank, best player available for the position that they need. Caleb Williams is probably going number one. And I mean, I don't know. Do you have any input on that?
No, I mean he's been the no doubt number one pick since October. I mean, we haven't we haven't been this sure about a number one pick since like Trevor Lawrence or Andrew Luck or guys like that. So I think this is the easiest pick of the draft.
Completely agree. And this is where, and what's funny, it doesn't even take two picks, and I think we might have different decisions. But if the Commanders have the pick, I think they're going to go with Jaden Daniels. I just think he's the second best overall quarterback in what you can do. A lot of people say that Drake May is Josh Allen or has looks of Josh Allen, which I mean is great. But Josh Allen also has an issue of turning the ball over, and the fact that he's not as mobile as Josh Allen is a little bit of a red flag for me. You can throw the ball, but in this NFL, you got to be able to be mobile. And I feel like Jaden Daniels is a guy that can help this Washington team take the next step on potentially getting back to the playoffs.
Yeah, I also had Jaden Daniels going one. I know we'll get into it in a second, but I really like what Daniels did his last year at LSU. Obviously, he was a great player, won the Heisman, had over 40 touchdowns, 4,000 yards. The one thing that worries me about Daniels though is his size. He is a skinnier quarterback, which we'll see if that will amount to anything. Um, he's got to learn how to take hits in the NFL, slide, go out of bounds. I do think he's going to be a really good player. I think he's going to make the Commanders really good this year, compared to what they have been in the past. So yeah, I think I also really like Daniels at two.
Yeah, and obviously, we think the first three picks are probably going to be quarterbacks, unless someone trades up trying to get Marvin Harrison, which I mean, I don't think that's a bad move by anybody because I think pound for pound, Harrison is probably the best uh, draft option in the NFL this year. If Caleb Williams wasn't in this draft, I wouldn't be shocked if people were considering taking him number one overall if they didn't need a quarterback, obviously. But the first three picks, assuming that New England and Washington keep their picks, I think quarterbacks are going off 1, 2, 3. And so I'm just going to go Drake May at number 3. I mean, they moved on from Mac Jones. I don't really think they know who exactly they want to go with. At the same time, I wouldn't be shocked when we get into your actual mock draft. I wouldn't be shocked if they trade this pick, but assuming the Patriots keep this pick, I think Drake May is going to go to New England. I mean, it's just the best fit, really, with the best player available.
Yeah, I agree. The last few mock drafts I've had McCarthy going to the Patriots, and I could still see that happening. But I agree. I think we're 3 for 3 so far on draft picks. I have Caleb, Jaden, and Drake in that order. Drake's a good player. Coming into the year, he was the second quarterback off the board no matter what. It took a heroic Heisman season from Jaden Daniels for people's minds to change. I still think Drake May is really good. He probably needs to sit a year or at least half the year behind a quarterback. Um, but I really like the the talent that Drake May possesses. And one day, if under the right system, under the right circumstances, I think he can be a very good quarterback in the NFL.
Completely agree. Moving on to the fourth pick, Arizona. I hope my Cardinals take Marvin Harrison. Now, whether or not that will actually happen or whether or not they will actually keep the pick, that's neither here nor there. We'll get into that a little more when we get to your mock draft. But if the Arizona Cardinals have this pick, still assuming that they don't trade it or move down or whatever, if they don't take Marvin Harrison Jr., they're dumb. Like, is it again, like we said, pound for pound, probably the best prospect in the draft this year. Having another weapon, or at least having a weapon, because the Cardinals are they're kind of weak in the wide receiver room right now, so they need literally anyone and anyone that would be willing to help. And Marvin Harrison is someone that could make an impact day one, potentially lead the NFL rookies this coming season in receptions, yards, and touchdowns, given that the Cardinals don't have a lot in their receiver room currently.
Right, I agree that is the right pick. Whether or not in my mock draft I have that happening, we'll see. Um, but if you're the Cardinals, you got to surround Kyler with weapons if you still believe in him. They lost Marquise Brown in free agency. They traded Rondale Moore. So really, the only receiver that they have is Trey McBride, and he was good last year. Had 800 or 900 yards and a couple touchdowns. But you got to surround Kyler with as many weapons as you can. And drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., who's the best wide receiver prospect in the last 10 years, I don't think that's
Mm-hmm.
a bold statement, other than maybe Julio Jones. But I think if you're the Cardinals, you have to look at your options for a possible trade down, because if you're blown away by an offer for a team wanting a quarterback or a team wanting Marv, I think you got to take best offer. But I do think if the Cardinals don't trade down, I think Marv's the pick.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, it's obvious. Like, that's the best player really available. I can't wait to talk about your mock draft, about what the Cardinals do in your situation or what you see happening. But the Chargers are right after, and honestly, I I would not be shocked if this order stays the same, or even if someone trades up for 3 and takes a quarterback. I wouldn't be shocked if 4 through 6 are all wide receivers. If nobody like trades up and takes Marvin earlier than 3. I mean, earlier than 4. So I have Malik Neighbors going to the Chargers. I The Chargers need weapons. Herbert needs someone to throw to. Quentin Johnson is their number one guy, I'm pretty sure, this year. And that, I'm sorry, I don't care who your coach is. I don't care what your quarterback uh, is in the level of eliteness in the NFL, because he's one of the best quarterbacks, one of the best talents in the NFL. But if you only have one guy, and even the one guy isn't necessarily reliable to throw to, you're in trouble. So I got Malik Neighbors going to the Chargers, assuming that, again, for those that are just joining us, this is assuming that nothing changes in the draft order.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Marv being in this draft, Malik Neighbors is the wide receiver one in almost any draft class. He was that good at LSU. I think it's a great pick with the Chargers because, like you said, they need weapons right now. You want to surround your young quarterback with as many weapons as you physically can. We'll see how Harbaugh's able to design up routes and stuff for him, because I do think the Chargers want to get to a little bit more run heavy than they were in the past. Because Harbaugh come from Michigan, that's really how they have had their success the last 2 or 3 years. But I do think if Neighbors is on the board, I think you have to take him.
Yeah, I similar to Marv, like you mentioned, he'd probably be the number one wide receiver without a doubt if Marv wasn't in this draft class. Of course, after the Chargers are the Giants, and I think the Giants could go wide receiver as well. So, um, Adunze from Washington is probably who I would go with, if they, assuming everything stays true with the draft order in the NFL this year. I mean, New York needs anyone, because they lost Saquon. So, not that Saquon is a receiver or a receiving back, but like they lost a huge weapon on the offensive side. Daniel Jones had a stinky year after getting that huge contract, and we all know that that contract was a little bit of a risk, anyways. But yeah, I got Adunze from Washington.
Yeah, I think no matter how the board falls, I think if any of the top three receiver prospects are on the board at 6, I think the Giants are taking them, assuming they don't trade down or trade out. Um, I like Odunze a lot. Um, Coming in like before the combine, he's probably wide receiver 2 for me, but he slid down to wide receiver 3. But which in this class is no shame when you're going up against Marv and Malik Neighbors. So you got to see if Daniel Jones can thrive. Yes, he's under that huge contract. So you have to see if he'll have success this year like he did 2 years ago. Maybe you can potentially make it back to relevancy because, gosh, they only had like 5 or 6 wins this year, and their quarterback play was pretty abysmal. So if they can get some stable quarterback play and then you add Romo Dunze, man, I think the Giants could. They're taking the right steps. I won't go as far as they'll be good, but they're taking the right steps as an organization.
Do you think they would? Do you see any possibility or potential of them trading up for a quarterback,
Um,
or do you think Daniel
Potentially,
Jones is
if the
going to be their
board,
guy?
I think you just got to see what the teams above them's asking price is, and then when you trade up for that pick, who's on the board. Like if it's, let's say it's Caleb, Jaden, and JJ, 1, 2, 3, boom, 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 and the Giants are sitting there at 6, and they're like, okay, well, let's trade up to the Cardinals, and let's go get Drake May, have him sit behind Daniel Jones for a year, and then we can cut our losses with the Daniel Jones contract, get a new quarterback under a rookie deal. I think the Giants could seriously look into that. I know they've been saying they're not looking at quarterback, but I think when you have Daniel Jones on your roster and he hasn't really shown any progression since his rookie year, I think you have to keep all options open.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually wouldn't be shocked if, you know what, I talk about how I would be disappointed in the Cardinals if they didn't take Marv. Trading down to allow the Giants to get get Drake May, and then taking Malik Neighbors, I wouldn't be against that because they're obviously going to get something else in return as well. They're not going to just do 1-for-1 pick swaps, but it's just something to keep an eye on because I think the Giants. I don't know. I think the writing's on the wall whether Jones wants to admit it or not. Like this year is going to have to be really, really good for him if he's going to want to stay in New York, or if he's going to want to be a starting quarterback in New York or pretty much anywhere. So just something to keep an eye on, at least what I potentially could see. The Titans are after the Giants, and I mean they haven't cleared house because they've added actually some pretty decent talented players, some weapons on the offensive side, but also they lost King Henry. Where do you think they're going to go? I think I got them taking an offensive lineman. I think Joe Alt's going to be the guy just because he's the best overall offensive lineman available. But what do you got?
Yeah, I've been mocking Joe Alt to the Titans for like 2 months now. I mean, if you think Will Levis is your guy, you got to protect him. They have the weapons now around him. They have Calvin Ridley. They have Traylon Burks. They have other guys like that. Now you really have to make sure your offensive line is good. They drafted Peter Skoronski last year, but he's more of a guard. Joe Alt can be your day one left tackle. He can be a franchise left tackle for the next 10 years. So I think it's Joe Alt, and I don't even think the Titans really hesitate unless they're blown away by a trade offer. Like let's say one of the quarterbacks, just keeps falling. I think they could trade out, but I think Joe Alt's the pick.
Do you see them ever taking or potentially taking edge rusher Dallas Turner from Bama?
They could. The defensive side of the ball this year for this draft isn't as good as it has been in years past. We usually have like one edge rusher going top 5 or top 3. This year, not so much. I mean, presumably the first player taken off the board is going to be Dallas Turner or Latu from UCLA. I could see him taking it, but I think left tackle is a more pressing need, and I think Joe Alt is just the better player overall.
Yeah, I agree. Next pick, you got the Falcons. This is assuming that Joe Alt is off the board. If Alt's off the board, I think the Falcons may want to get some more protection for Kirk Cousins. But I'm going to just go. I mentioned him earlier, Dallas Turner from Bama. I just probably going to be the most logical pick for them because everything else they don't really need. They don't need a tight end. They don't need a quarterback. They don't really need. I wouldn't say they need any more wide receivers necessarily to become unbelievable. I mean, it never hurts to add some more, but yeah, I think they're going to go with that edge rusher from Bama and Turner.
Yeah, I really like Turner. There was a stat out there I saw on Twitter that said that the Falcons had the least pressure on quarterbacks last year since like 2016. It's how bad it was. So you got to be able to get pressure on the opposing team's quarterback, and Dallas Turner can do that. He did that for the last 2 years at Bama. So I think this is a no-brainer pick for the Cardinals.
Yeah, the Falcons. Wrong bird. Then we got the 9th pick, the Bears picking 9th. Having 2 top 10 picks, man, that was something I wish that the Cardinals would have had. But CJ Stroud decided to be unbelievable year one. But if the Bears are available here, I think they go probably next best wide receiver. Probably leaning towards Brian Thomas Jr. But I honestly, and this is before we even uh, have this situation or have this game, have this pick or the draft even happening, I see this pick getting traded, honestly. But assuming that it's still there, Brian Thomas Jr. is who I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I think if the top three wide receivers are off the board, there's a pretty big gap between Ondunze and Thomas, in my opinion. So I think you're right that they would trade out. But in this scenario, no trades. I do think Brian Thomas is a good pick. I would be shocked if the Bears went defense too, but I do like Thomas really well. He'll fit really well with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. You're giving Caleb the best opportunity to succeed in Chicago, but surrounding him with as many weapons as possible. So no, I really like the pick.
Number 10, Jets, Brock Bowers. I think they want a tight end. Well, and I mean, Aaron Rodgers having more weapons on the offensive end when he's getting up there in age, coming back from an Achilles tear. Brock Bowers is a freak of nature when he's healthy. Not that he's injury prone. He just had that little injury last year during the college football season. I think he can be a generational tight end. And what I mean by that, I probably mean like 5 to 8 years of just pure like just being one, two, or three in the rankings of best tight ends in the league. Just because it seems like tight ends now, they go hard for 5 to 8 years, and even 8 years is kind of pushing it sometimes with how much they're asked to catch the ball now. But Brock Bowers would be my pick for the Jets.
This one I kind of disagree with you on. I do really like Brock as a player, but man, if you're the Jets, you got to make sure Rodgers is protected before you draft any more weapons because I'm not saying that the same thing that happened last year is going to happen this year, but you got to make sure that you're putting as much resources as you can in the offensive line. I know they signed 2 tackles in Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith, but even adding like an interior offensive lineman, I think is going to help. Or I see them go, if, like I said, if any of the 3 receivers fall, I think you draft them in a heartbeat if none of the all linemen you like are still there. But I do think Brock's a really good player. I don't think he's going to go to the Jets, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, looking at your little mock draft that you put together where it includes trades and everything, he's picked a little bit before the Jets anyways. But that's our kind of mini first 10 picks of the draft, mock draft, with no trades. However, Dawson puts in a lot more work than I do. I just don't have the thought process to be like, okay, what's a fair trade for people? Dawson likes to put together mock drafts. We'll release his official Thursday, like draft day mock
Mock,
draft
Mock 4.0. It's the final
4.0.
product.
I'm excited to see it because like even looking at the one that he sent this morning to me that we're going to show here in a second, I would say some drastic changes have been made to his mock draft. So here is Dawson's. Well, here let me pull up your last one first.
Oh, the
Let's
last
see.
one. Last
I
one, I
don't even know
realized I
if I
made a
have that.
mistake as soon as I sent it to you. So this
I
one,
think
this
was
one
this
I
the
think
last
is
one?
good.
Yeah, this was the last
Yeah,
one.
that is because I have the Chargers taking 2 offensive linemen, which isn't going to happen. But
So the last one he has. So he already changed Jaden Daniels and Drake May, flipping them. Has the Cardinals drafting Marv, Vikings trading up the 5th to get McCarthy. Obviously, Chargers getting 2 offensive linemen won't be happening.
yeah,
Um, But the one that I mentioned earlier to him was, or I mentioned last episode with him, was Brock Bowers falling to 18, which kind of shocked me. Now we look at his current mock draft, and things have changed. Oh wait, is this the right one? Yeah, this
Mhm.
things have changed just slightly. And I mean, you got 1, 2, 3. We've already kind of mentioned that. So no trade from the Vikings. However, I mean, no trade from the Patriots. However, number 4, the Cardinals trade their number 4 pick to the Minnesota Vikings for JJ McCarthy. I'm assuming in return for um, a pick, right?
So this trade was the Cardinals getting picks 11, 23, and a third this year, and the Vikings getting number 4, and the Vikings getting their franchise quarterback in McCarthy. The
So,
offer was just too good to pass up if you're the Cardinals. You get 2 top 23 picks this year, and you get a later pick in this year's draft. And if you're the Cardinals, you just need to add as much talent as you can to that team. So I figured this was, although a tough decision to pass on Marv, I think this was the best thing for the team.
and honestly, I don't hate the offensive line pick at number 11 for the Arizona Cardinals. I think the Arizona Cardinals quietly have had a terrible offensive line the last couple of years. I mean, one of the reasons that Kyler is running all the time is because of the line. I know that Kyler kind of has a short fuse when it comes to waiting in the pocket, anyways, but injuries. I mean, he's had a terrible injury already. He's getting paid a lot, so you want to protect your quarterback. So I kind of like the move to go get an offensive lineman. Of course, that means you lose out on Marv, but you get Brian Thomas Jr. at 23, which I wouldn't hate whatsoever. But looking at your mock draft with that pick of JJ McCarthy going to the Vikings, that means that the Chargers get Marv, which I mean, I'm assuming that that's what the Chargers want. They want Marv to drop to number 4. I mean, number 5, because they got rid of Keenan Allen. Mike Williams is gone. I mentioned earlier, Quentin Johnson is pretty much their guy right now at wide receiver. So getting Marv as a, I don't know, consolation prize of getting rid of your 2 franchise wide receivers and your running back is not a bad thing whatsoever.
As a Chiefs fan, I do not want this scenario to happen. I don't want to play Marvin Harrison Jr. 2 times a year for the next 10 years. But hey, it's just the way the board fell. And with the Vikings trading up to 4 instead of 5, I think that the Chargers are. It's a no-brainer in my opinion to go with Marv.
So I'm kind of curious though, when it comes to your decision to switch from the Vikings trading up to 5 to trading up to 4, was there a specific reason behind that, or was it just kind of like how you think that the board falls better for the Cardinals if they trade back versus the Chargers?
I think that there's a couple different teams that could potentially trade up this high. I know I've mocked basically the Vikings trading up every single one of these, but I'm that certain that they're probably going to trade up. I could see the Raiders trading up. I could see potentially the Broncos possibly trading up if they like their guy at quarterback. So there's just a few options there. Obviously, the Giants could still take a quarterback and possibly trade up. So there's an option there. But I think if you're the Vikings, you want to make sure that you don't miss out on your guy because the quarterback class next year isn't as good as the one this year. This year there's potentially 5 first round quarterbacks. Next year there's probably only 2 or 3. So I think if you're the Vikings, you have to make sure you want to go get your guy.
Do you see the maybe I'm missing something when it comes to their roster and I'm looking at it right now just so I don't like absolutely embarrass myself. Do you see the Raiders potentially making a move to get to the top 5 to get a quarterback?
I think the Raiders would trade up for Jaden Daniels. I don't know if they're trading up for McCarthy or May. The Raiders also could go get Penix. Now, Penix, I don't know where his draft stock is. I've seen him mocked in the first round. I've seen him mocked all the way up to 12, which I think is high, but who knows where his draft stock is going to be at come Thursday. But I don't know. If you're the Raiders, in my opinion, again, it's another team that just needs to get better players overall on that roster. And in this scenario, Penix doesn't go round 1, so he's probably going to be one of the top 5 picks in the second round on day 2. So I think that's when you make your move and trade up. Plus, it will cost you less assets to do that. But I think the Raiders are definitely in the need for a quarterback this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. And maybe waiting for Penix later on is a good thing. I mean, outside of the Penix, Williams, Daniels, and May and McCarthy, like, are there any quarterbacks that you have where you could see potentially making a big impact year one when it comes to actually getting snaps, or even not year one? Maybe it's like a couple years, or he bounces around or finds a position. I think Spencer Rattler, like, just raw talent, is one of the more talented players in this draft class when it comes to being able to throw the ball. It's just that he's one size of Jaden Daniels, but not producing Jaden Daniels numbers. And I mean, two, I don't know. He came into Oklahoma supposed to be this unbelievable talent, which he was. He was a good player. I think he was up for the Heisman that year. I don't think he was. I don't know. Can't remember for sure if he was a finalist, but went to South Carolina. Didn't do terrible. I mean, South Carolina was a team that you couldn't just walk in and expect to win. But do you think Spencer Rattler, or is there someone else that you have your eye on that could potentially make an impact in the NFL?
So out of this draft, I believe there's 5 quarterbacks that are going to start year 1. And it's the top 4 guys, and I think Penix is up there. When it comes to starting within the next few years and that could potentially make an impact, Bo Nix is a name, the kid from Oregon, who I think could make an impact.
The kid, he's like 25.
Yeah, he's like 24. He might be older. I don't know if he's older than Penix, but I outside of that though, like you said, Spencer Rattler could, but I think this right situation has to be present and the right scenario has to happen where a team has an injury and then he steps in and really shines or something along those lines. I do think he could be a good player in the NFL. He's got good traits. He's got some good abilities in the NFL, but I don't know if I necessarily would put my life savings in Spencer Rattler being great in the NFL.
Would you be shocked if the Jets take a quarterback late?
Like first, second, or third round? No, I don't think
No,
they
I
are.
don't
I
expect
would be
not.
shocked. Yeah,
Yeah,
anything after the 4th round, I wouldn't be because I mean I don't
do
even
you,
know who the Jets' backup quarterback is this year.
yeah. Let me look that up. But
Because
like,
I think Zach Wilson's still on the roster, but I don't think they want to do that to themselves again.
but like, Tyrod Taylor would probably be their backup heading into the season,
Gotcha.
assuming that they don't want to put Zach Wilson back as backup.
They don't. They don't.
Um, I guess I haven't looked to see where Bo is going, but Bo Nix to the Jets is not a terrible move, I feel like.
No, so Bo Nix is kind of the wild card for me of what team he's going to go to. Obviously, there's the quarterback needy teams like Denver, like Vegas. But then, like you said, there's teams like the Jets where it's like, are we just getting one more year of Rodgers? Do we need to prepare for the future? If if you only think you're getting one more year, maybe you draft Bo. Another team, funny enough, I think the Cowboys could be interested. I think there's some smoke with Dak Prescott potentially staying there next year. He's on the last year of his deal.
You,
He's going to want a net upwards of $60 million a year. So maybe for the Cowboys, you're like,
but you
don't
got
want to give
Trey Lance.
$60 million to Dak. So you could
You got Trey
potentially draft
Lance
Bo Nix
though.
in this. What?
They got Trey Lance.
Dude, Trey Lance, there's a reason why Trey Lance hasn't been playing games in the last 2 years, okay? He got beat out by Jimmy Garoppolo three
Don't be
years
her.
ago.
I was gonna say, don't harass who I think you're about to harass.
I won't. I'll
I
keep
was
my
gonna
mouth
say,
shut on
because
that
the
one.
only reason they lost the Super Bowl is because the offensive line decided not to block Chris Jones.
Hey, and you see who I have them taking at 31 too.
Taking an offensive lineman, and man, again, I think you and I bet you there's a lot of Chiefs fans. We both agree that Chris Jones should have been Super Bowl MVP, and I mean, it's whatever. But I'm interested to hear what your thought process is when I look at your old mock draft. You had Bowers dropping all the way to 18 with the Bengals, and now you got him back in the top 10 with the Bears, who have Everett, I'm pretty sure, from the Chargers already on, and Cole Kmet on their roster. So not criticizing, just curious on what your thought process is with Brock Bowers going to Chicago. Think it's a great pick because imagine Caleb Williams walking into year one. You got Keenan Allen, all the other great, good wide receivers. Then you got Everett, Cole Kmet, and Brock Bowers. And you forget about Swift. I forget about Swift sometimes when you realize that he's on their roster now. Getting Brock Bowers would be amazing, but what's your thought process behind the Bears taking Bowers in that pick?
I think the Bears look at the board and I think they say, you know what? Bowers right now is the best available player. Yes, he might not be at the most pressing need when it comes to position wise, but I think you just got to stick and pick with the best player available, especially since, like you said, he's one of the top tight end prospects in the last 10 years. I mean, Kyle Pitts is up there. I'm trying to think who else was drafted top 10 as a tight end. TJ Hawkinson back in 2019 was drafted top 10. I think if you're the Bears, I don't know if they're going to make this pick, but me personally, if you want to help Caleb Williams out year one, I don't think there's anyone better than Brock Bowers or a Romo Dunze or like any of the top three receivers or Brock Bowers.
All right, now I need your opinion because I've seen this floating around, more specifically floating around Iowa and Iowa State Twitter. Cooper DeJean has been labeled as a safety.
So
I'll let you take the floor.
I don't believe he's a safety. Maybe that shows my bias as an Iowa fan, but I've watched this kid for 3 years now, and he has performed at every level of being a cornerback. And he provides so much more than a cornerback. He can be your punt returner, he can be your kick returner. And I know people want to give him crap about being a white corner in the NFL. We haven't seen one in 20 years. But I think his pro day, I think just proved everyone wrong why he doesn't need to play safety. He can play corner. He can play a boundary corner in the NFL. Ran a 4.45, which is plenty fast in the NFL to play DB. He's got great ball skills. He can go up and get it. And he's a bigger corner. He's 6'1" or 6'2". And I think the Jags just need defensive backs. I can see the Jags drafting corners or a receiver with this pick, maybe an offensive lineman as well. I just think that Cooper's also one of the 15 best players in this draft, and him falling to 17, I think the Jags have to take him.
Look at that
Yeah.
pro day. 38.5 vert, 4.43, 4.45, 40 yard. I mean, we talk about pound for pound best talent or just talented players and Marv and all that. Pound for pound best athlete might be Cooper DeJean when it comes to just pure athleticism on the field. And yeah, I agree he's not a safety. We just need to I don't get really it's not even a football thing of why people are questioning it. And we're not going to get into really the weeds of that topic. I think Cooper could be one of the best picks in this draft. And if on the right team, right system, playing the right position, Cooper could be unbelievable in the NFL.
I think Cooper should go to Denver, and then you pair him and Riley Moss, and then you get the Doughboys back together from Iowa City. And I think that's when
Is
you have a
Josie
lock.
still there?
No, Josie's with Carolina, I think. I think he signed a deal in free agency. But if you pair Pat Surtain, Cooper DeJean, and I know Riley Moss doesn't really play, but I think it would just be really cool to see all the boys back together.
That would be fun for sure. Xavier Worthy still the Chiefs. Are you set on the Chiefs taking a wide receiver here?
There's two positions that I could see him taking. Wide receivers, one, and I don't even think it's close. Potentially the other position is offensive line. Now, maybe in my next scenario, in my Thursday mock draft, I have a little bit different, but I have seen scenarios where Kansas City trades up into the teens and grabs their offensive tackle of the future, whether that is a guy like J.C. Latham or Troy Fatanu or Talise Fuaga. I could see him doing it. Or if Brian Thomas is still on the board later in the first round, and they want to jump the Bills. I mean, because I think the Bills are going to take a wide receiver no matter what, too. I could see him trading up, but I think if you pair Worthy with Hollywood Brown and Rashid Rice and Travis Kelce and Isaiah Pacheco, I think the Kansas City's going to have a good offense next year.
That's the understatement of the century. Like, their team's going to be good no matter what. Honestly, whoever they pick at wide receiver at 32, I think is going to have an immediate impact on this team. And that's just shows you how good this offense is, not just because of Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, the best player in the NFL, no doubt. But it shows you how good Andy Reid is at getting his players involved and finding different ways to manipulate the offense, or I guess manipulate the defense that they're playing against, to always be looking out for everybody. Because it's one thing to be like, oh, we're playing Minnesota. If we stop Jefferson, we got a chance. Kansas City, it's, well, we got to stop Travis, but we also now need to watch out for Hollywood Brown, which now we also need to worry about Rice and whoever Kansas City takes in the draft, Pacheco. Oh, and by the way, they have arguably a top 2 quarterback of all time in Patrick Mahomes, who can scramble. There's a difference between Tom Brady having all these weapons and Patrick Mahomes. Again, as of right now, Mahomes isn't yet in that conversation of number 1 all time. I said last year, I think, did I say 3 or 2 if they won this year? I don't remember. I think I said 2, but I could be wrong.
I'm not quite sure.
But dude, I'm just tired of talking about how good the Chiefs are going to be every year, man. You guys just keep finding a way to rebuild. Everybody's like, oh, there goes Tyreek Hill. It's over. It's not there. It's over. No. Tyreek Hill's great. Don't get me wrong. He's unbelievable in talent. But you know what? I'm starting to believe that Andy Reid is
The GOAT coach.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Because this is a whole discussion for a different day, but like, even when he didn't have necessarily all the talent in the world, he was still competing. Belichick dropped when Brady left. There was no high without Brady ever, even before. So yeah, Andy Reid, he's my favorite coach of all time. I'll give you that.
Yeah, double bacon cheeseburger, some fries. You'll be Andy Reid's best friend. Bill Belichick, I don't know what it takes to be his best friend.
That's
I think of that State Farm commercial where it's Jake from State Farm, Mahomes, and Reid, and Andy Reid does the little fingers and grabs the chicken nuggets from Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, now show me
every
those
time I
nuggies.
see it, just makes me laugh.
Oh, that's what's so cool about him, is he's willing to do these things, and you can tell that like he's not someone that like would actively do this. I don't know how Mahomes was able to convince him to do all these commercials or just kind of get out of his shell. But like, was it the Snickers commercial with who are the chefs?
Yes.
Like, every once in a while in my head, I'll just go, great googly moogly. You know, that's just
Yeah.
Andy Reid is one of my favorite sports personalities of all time.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Any other people that you want to highlight here on your mock draft here before we sign off?
I'll stick with your Cardinals. I had them taking Olu Fashanu from Penn State, beefing up that offensive line. But I also have them taking Brian Thomas, another weapon for Kyler Murray, who I think is the 4th best receiver in the draft. And he falls to 23. So good get for them. And then I also have them taking Kool-Aid McKinstry.
I'll take that.
Isn't cornerback 1, but entering last season, I think he was CB1. And then he falls to 27 in this scenario. So if you're the Cardinals, you have to weigh your options. You can take Marv and live with pick 27 as well, but you can also get your offensive lineman of the future, a great wide receiver, and a great corner. I think if you're the Cardinals, you definitely got to weigh that one out.
I think you're starting to convince me that the Cardinals should trade down, and I don't know if I'm okay with it or not, because like it makes sense, but it's like, man,
it sucks.
You got Maserati Marv, man. He's
Hmm.
right there for the taking, but like at the same time, is that the most logical pick to make anymore or move to make in general? Because who knows? The offensive lineman at 11 or the wide receiver at 23 could potentially boost you even more than just one wide receiver. So I'm interested to see what your mock draft will look like on Thursday.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna poo poo on the Cardinals too much, but I don't know if Marvin is gonna make a crazy good impact year one.
He'll get targeted like
He'll
50
get a
times a
thousand
game.
yards. I think. I think he'll be up for offensive rookie of the
Yeah.
year. But I don't think he's gonna change life in Arizona. What I think Arizona needs is just more talent on the roster. And yes, Marvin Harrison is very talented. He's the most talented player in the draft. But if you're sitting there at 4 and the Vikings offer you a crazy trade, I think you're delusional if you don't take it. I mean, in this scenario, they get pick 11, pick 23, and I gave them a third this year. Like that's two additional players that you get in this trade that can help bolster your roster this year.
The Broncos just released their new unis.
Oh no. Am I gonna like them as a Chiefs fan or am I gonna hate them?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to find a screenshot of them so I don't have to play the stupid video. Let's see here. Someone tweeted out. Um, come on,
Nope, it's just the video right now.
that's so stupid. Here, I'll just pause it.
Ooh,
Oh, so you saw them?
ew. They look like some UFL jerseys, XFL. Not to hate on the XFL, but like, I don't know. I don't like them.
Okay, let's see. We're gonna have our live
Oh,
reaction
dude.
on the pod.
Okay. Once you pull up the screenshot, I will tell you what I do like about the jerseys.
Okay, one sec. Let me position this. I'm going to. So here's the first look of one of their home unis. I'm gonna just kind of scrub through this video. Well, I guess here.
The white helmet is probably my favorite. I like white helmets
The
with
white helmet.
anything.
The white
They're
helmet with
super
their
clean.
color looks clean. Their
But
color
like
scheme.
the thing that I hate about all these new jerseys is they're too bland. They're just eh. It's like, yeah, it's different, but like same with the
What
NBA
is that
jerseys.
supposed to? What is this supposed to represent? Like this little divot. Like
Mountains, I don't know. Like a giant mountain.
I'm not sure what this uni like concept idea. Okay, so here are the full unis. So you got the all orange.
Don't they just look bland?
Yeah.
They look. So the orange one honestly looks like a Bengals uniform to me.
Oh yeah.
Is
And
that the
then so
white
here's the
one?
all white. I like the all white. It's hard to mess up all white. Let's be honest.
You gotta throw that white helmet with the all white,
See,
in my
I like
opinion.
these, but these look like Boise State.
Yeah,
Okay, so and then they got the alternate looks. I don't mind. You know what? These might grow on me. I'm not gonna lie. They just look very similar to Boise State. I will say, I don't know if you saw the ending of the video. They had this little like walking up kind of thing. They're bringing throwbacks.
yeah.
That's definitely what that means. But yeah, there's our little live reaction of the new Broncos uniforms. Oh, what did you think of the Lions ones?
I've seen mixed opinions on Twitter about them. I didn't hate them. I kind of liked them. Like the helmet was a little weird for me, but the black jersey was really sick, and the blue jersey, and then um, I didn't mind the helmets. I wasn't a huge fan, but I didn't mind them. I actually kind of liked them.
I thought they were clean. Their color scheme's amazing.
It's hard to mess up baby blue in any color iteration. Like
I mean,
okay,
I
so the
will
one I
say
don't really, I guess I don't really like the white.
you don't like the
I think
white.
NFL
Okay,
jerseys shouldn't have like Detroit or Lions on it, like the black and the white ones have. The black one I can kind of live with. The white one, I don't know. I think it should just be like the number, like kind of how the blue one in the middle is. It's just very,
I respect
I don't
that.
know.
I
I
will
feel like,
say that the
yeah.
black one looks so much like Carolina.
Hmm.
It's like to a T almost, but it's still dope. My buddy uh, Hugo is on their social media team. I think he's a social media manager or something like that. I don't know if he helped put together that video, and I don't know if he listens to this podcast, but Hugo, if you helped out with that video, great job. I mean, this was amazing work by Detroit's social team. A lot of great shots. I mean, the whole I don't know city look of the logo behind them right here. It's kind of cool
Hmm.
looking. But overall, I love these new unis. They're clean. I get your point of like no name on the front, but I'm fine with it.
I'm just gonna be honest. I'm kind of a old head with these new jerseys that come out. They just Nike for me has ruined a lot of these jerseys. I'm more complaining about the NBA than I am the NFL. But the NFL, there's some jerseys that have been pretty
Just be
bad too
happy that there's
recently.
not city unis every year for the
Oh,
NFL.
oh my god! Because some of the city jerseys are nasty. They're just
Do you
oh,
do you think that they do that? They don't have it in the NFL because there's so many teams in the NFL that are like, well, like your Chiefs for an example. And this isn't hating on the Chiefs whatsoever. They're so old school in the
mhm.
fact that this is our brand and this is who we are, and we're not going to live any other way. Do you think that's the reason? Because I mean, if you look at the Celtics too, the Celtics city uniforms have kind of looked so bland, and honestly, personal opinion, I think the Celtics have had the most consistent, like decent looking city uniforms because they don't try to do too much with it. Because they are like, this is who we are. We're not going to try to change anything. The ones that looked really bad was the ones where they tried to make the jerseys look like their championship banners. It was I don't know if you remember those. I can look it up.
I'm gonna have to, yeah, pull a picture up. I
Um,
think I know which ones you're
that's
talking
why
about,
that
but
there's no city uniforms in the NFL.
I'm happy there's not. I mean, I know Kansas City, they rock out with two uniforms. They're the red ones or they're white ones. And sometimes they go all red, sometimes they go all white. I would like to see a white helmet with Kansas City. I think a whiteout helmet would be clean, but I'm never gonna be mad at the Chiefs uniforms. They're kind of at the point now with their brand that I feel like they're never really gonna make these drastic changes. Kind of reminds me of the Steelers. The
Mhm.
Steelers have had the same look for 30 years now. They've made slight tweaks and they've had all like random uniform. They had the bumblebees, and then they had the brick letter ones from back in the 70s and 80s. But they're up there with teams that
There's the
oh,
Celtics championship
those ones
banner.
aren't
It's
those ones
not
aren't that
terrible.
bad.
Honestly, I think these are amazing.
I do like that. Those aren't are those this year's?
I could be wrong, but I think so.
Okay.
I mean, they've had some good. I think they've had actually some of the cleaner ones. Like these were cool. Of course, I'm biased, but like I think the Celtics have had some of the better city
Ooh,
unis.
yeah. I don't like the like green and or like gold one down there.
This one,
Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't really care
that's
for
my
that one.
least favorite one. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what the thought process behind that was, but uh, yeah, that's one of the reasons why I don't think the NFL does it. Is there's so many teams that are like, this is our brand, this is who we are. Like the Steelers. Imagine, like I mean, the Steelers have kind of been okay with the black, all black with the yellow numbers, every like the color rush unis every once in a while. But like, um, no, there's
But they don't do like full jersey changes like
yeah,
what Denver just
and they
did or
never
what.
will.
Yeah.
Like the Kansas City never will. I feel like if you do a huge like jersey overhaul, jersey different like change, you're kind not. This isn't everybody's situation because sometimes it's needed. Like the Cardinals, when they changed theirs, it was needed, but I'm not too happy with the current ones that they have because they're so. There's literally no design in it. It's just numbers. But sometimes I feel like if you change your jerseys, it's just like you're trying to look for a new image as a whole. Like you're not that good. Like you're not going to change your jerseys when you're like on a run. Like imagine Kansas City or imagine the Golden State Warriors when they were going on those runs. They're like, "Yep, we're going to change our brand."
Yeah.
Um,
No.
but I don't know. Uh, Are there any other teams that you know that are supposed to be changing their
The
unis?
Jets, I don't know if we talked about the Jets last time. The Jets new uniforms are clean. I really like those ones.
I'll pull those up right now because I don't think I've seen them.
They came out last week, I want to say. Maybe 2 weeks ago.
Jets new uniforms. Let's see here.
Because I hated the Jets uniform that they had the last 3 or 4 years.
Ooh, these are clean. Of course, the graphic is probably gonna like overemphasize the color of green, but like I like it. I do like the old school logo.
Yeah, and the black jerseys with the green Jets on the side. That is, I'm always a fan of teams like having an all black set of uniforms. I think it just looks super clean. Or an
Oh,
all white
really?
set.
But when Iowa State does it, it's an issue. Come on. Come on, people. No. We can't just be like, oh yeah, everybody should have an all black except for Iowa State.
Put some red or something with theirs though.
Yes,
theirs
I agree.
is just black and white.
I agree. No, I love the all black. I like the new kind of, well, I guess old school style logo. I love that Aaron Rodgers' helmet kind of emphasizes the old school look because his helmet is old school as well. I'm interested to see how that green on that helmet looks with the green jerseys on like actual play, like game action. Because like, I don't know, it looks like two different shades of green to me.
Kind of does, yeah. And I know that the NFL, what they approve, that teams can wear like 2 or 3 different types of helmets throughout the year.
Greatest move they ever did. Yeah. That's probably why they don't do city jerseys as well, is because for the longest time the NFL was like hell bent on not changing helmets. So that would make sense.
Right. And like the NFL is never going to do anything crazy with city jerseys because there's 32 teams. There's at least 50 players on an active roster, plus another 20 on practice squad. And with football, you're dealing with helmets, you're dealing with jersey tops, jersey bottoms, socks, cleats, gloves, way more than the NBA where you're just worrying about jersey tops and bottoms.
Oh, I should not be getting tired here at 10:13 in the morning. But yeah, I agree. Are there any other teams that I'm forgetting about that got new unis?
I feel like that we just have to end off Sports Nerds with just us reviewing jerseys at the very end of it. Because I feel like we've done that the last 2 or 3 times.
Might have to. That might become a new thing. We should start
all just sports included, not just NFL. If we just see a new jersey that we like or dislike,
we'll start doing like tier lists.
Yes. I'm okay with it. One time in the summer when football news is slow, do an all-time jersey tier list.
Ooh, I like that idea. That might be the move. I'm not going to lie. But for now, we have the NFL draft this week. Dawson will drop his 4.0 version of his mock draft on Thursday sometime, and we will see how good our draft expert, because no one else on our podcast crew makes mock drafts as much as Dawson, but how good our draft sorry, I'm losing my mind here. How good our draft expert is compared to what actually happens in the draft. And dude, if you somehow get all 10, the first 10 right, including the trades, that would be amazing.
I'll get the first pick right. And that's really it, because the draft is crazy. Last year,
someone took sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but did you see someone like placed like I don't think he placed a huge bet, but like placed a bet that Caitlin Clark would be the second pick of the WNBA draft? Like the odds on it were like unbelievable. Like I don't think I've ever seen odds like that before.
I guess he just likes donating to casinos, I guess.
I mean, hey, do you know that Tyreek Hill is given more money due to fines for not wearing socks than Caitlin Clark's going to make her first year in the WNBA?
That is a crazy stat.
Yeah, I think he's given over 100,000 in his career, and Clark's getting what, 78 in the first year. By the way, for those that are complaining about Clark not getting paid much, the WNBA League Pass is only $40 if you want to help pay towards Clark and others getting more money in the WNBA. It's supply and demand, and the demand's there now, but it's fortunate. I will say, it's not to get too in depth on this WNBA situation, but the WNBA having their marketing rights thing come up this next year is perfect timing for them because they're only going to benefit because people are going to watch Clark like crazy. I'm pretty sure now whether or not that translates over to years of popularity in the WNBA, we'll see. But like their rights deal coming up this year, while Clark is while they're probably hype for the league right now is at the highest it's probably ever been. They are so lucky.
Right, and I know a lot of people from the Iowa City area, or just the Iowa state of Iowa in general, are going to be supporting her throughout the WNBA. Didn't the I saw the Fever sold out of all Caitlin Clark jerseys, small through double XL.
You want to talk about jerseys? I'm sorry. Clark's great and everything, but those jerseys are disgusting.
The Fever ones, yeah, I
Yes,
don't like them
they're
either.
terrible. I will say the WNBA because they kind of have more freedom to do what they want with their like city jerseys or like their alternatives. I think the Indiana Fever did one with like never seen the show, but like Stranger Things a couple years ago. They were pretty cool looking. But dude, we need one in Des Moines. I know it's a very small market, but
Oh, but dude, I'm telling you, it'd be the most. It would have the biggest fan base because
I
of
feel
everyone in the state of Iowa. We would finally have some sort of professional team. Because I don't think a lot of people like realize that, at least in the state of Iowa, I'm never gonna fault someone for like liking a team from a couple states over or anything. Just because like, well, we don't really have anyone in house to like root for. So that's why you see some like that's why like it's like okay like because Brock's a Cardinals fan or a Celtics fan
yep.
because like people from Iowa can kind of branch out because like we don't really have anything in house. So
And the people that like are fans of teams that are kind of like far away from Iowa, so like me with the Cardinals, you ask them, there's a good chance that they're like, well, I watched so and so in college, and then they got
mhm.
drafted to that team, and so I was like, might as well follow them. That's me with David Johnson. I mean, his jersey is literally right over here. So David Johnson from Northern Iowa played a couple great years with the Cardinals. Injuries derailed his career, but that's why I'm a Cardinals fan. Celtics, I really don't know what made me become a Celtics fan. Maybe it was because when I started watching basketball, they were one of the better teams in the league. And I mean, Kevin Garnett is one of my favorite players of all time. So that's probably why I became a Celtics fan. I will say that, like, for those that are like, well, that means you're a bandwagon. I mean, I didn't leave when we went through that year of just Rondo. And let me tell you, that year of just Rondo. And then I think the year after when, like, I think it was like Jared Wallace and Avery Bradley leading the team. Yeah, those years were not ideal. But shout out Danny Ainge for one of the best trades of all time. Somehow getting Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, all those guys through that trade of giving up Paul Pierce and crew. But yeah, I want a WNBA team in the state of Iowa. Probably going to be the biggest that we could probably get to a professional team. I could see us getting like a women's soccer league
Mhm.
or like something like that. But like when it comes to like how much these leagues are promoted, WNBA would probably be the highest I would ever imagine us ever getting. If even that, because if you look at where their teams are, all major markets, because they know that they can sustain and stay open or keep their doors open and not lose a bunch of money.
Just have them announce that Des Moines getting a team, and then 3 or 4 years have Clark force her way to the Iowa team.
I'm telling you, they should have just been like, "Yep, we're expanding to Des Moines," and they get the first pick.
Yeah,
That would have been amazing.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
But yeah, we'll have to do some jersey tier list shows throughout the summer in preparation for the NFL season, and it doesn't even need to be NFL related. But for now, we will sign off. Dawson will provide us with his mock draft version 4.0 on Thursday. Enjoy the draft. Enjoy pretty much everything going on this week: NHL playoffs, MLB baseball, NBA playoffs, and the NFL draft going on right now. Should be a good time. And we will probably be back either later this week or sometime early next week with another show of the Hardwood Convos. And then we'll also do a draft recap with the sports nerds here on the 515 Podcast Network. So for Dawson Livingston, I'm Brock Beirman, and we are signing off for the week.